Welcome to erpbugs. The topic for this session is accounting calendar. During this session, we will discuss what are the different types of calendars available in Fusion and what are their roles. Then we will discuss in detail why the accounting calendar is important. We will see the process of defining the accounting calendar and periods in Fusion application. Then we will discuss how the accounting calendar is being shared by different modules, particularly the financial modules within the Fusion application. Then finally, we will look at the processes where the business user will do some activities using the accounting calendar. Sometimes these activities are daily, sometimes it is once in a month. So we will look at all those activities related to the business user and specific to accounting calendar. From layman's language, when we talk about a calendar, normally we go with the calendar where it starts from 1st January to 31st December. We call that as a yearly calendar. Some countries follow that yearly calendar to record their transactions and prepare their reports. Uh, you know, they define the periods within that calendar year and then prepare their reports. But some companies they go for a fiscal calendar where the period will start from one date, 1 year, then it will end in the subsequent year. That is a fiscal calendar. So it's all depends on the country's law for reporting uh, their financial performance and the tax liability. So there are many things. From user's point of view, the calendar can be a financial calendar or accounting calendar, in which which will be used for recording the transactions within a particular defined period, and that's a sub element of the accounting calendar. Then we have depreciation calendar, where it is required for calculation of depreciation for the assets. Then special calendar, particularly for calculation of interest on invoice, calculation of due dates and all. We have transaction calendar, which will be used to control the transactions by the users. We can define that what are the days that we can do the transactions. Then workday calendar, which is for human resource and to plan the production. So there are many other calendars, but in this session we will focus on accounting calendar, the characteristics and the other details. How do we set up the accounting calendar? What is the importance? All those things we will discuss in this session. So the importance of accounting calendar. So for transaction creation or recording of transaction, it is important to have a proper accounting calendar in place. Then the changes or the audit trail, if there is any changes to the transactions, when, how, who did the changes, all those information will be possible. I mean, tracking of all those information will be possible if there is a proper accounting calendar. Then calculation of the balances. So periodically, if calculation is required, then it is important to have a proper accounting calendar with the defined periods. Then preparation of reports, again linked with the calculation. So based on the requirement of reports, the accounting calendar can be designed. Then adjustment, obviously at the end of the year, when there is some requirement of adjustment, the accounting calendar should have that flexibility to allow the user to do the adjustments. And finally, scheduling and decision making. So scheduling of reports, scheduling of various processes like payment or dunning letter, all those things can be done if a proper calendar is defined. Decision making, finally, the management will be able to take decision for every period. based on, periodically decisions can be taken by the management if an accounting calendar is defined. So the role of accounting calendar in Fusion. Now, when we record the accounting events, it is important to put a date, put a time when these accounting transactions are or the events are happening. Then tracking of accounting events. So if there is any change or if there is any modification done to the recorded transactions, then it is important. I mean, the calendar will play a role over there. Then planning. So if there are plans to be set for periodically, then follow up action to be taken. Then when this action to be taken, it needs a accounting calendar if it is a financial information for which the planning need to be done. Then sharing of information. So this accounting calendar no doubt defined in general ledger, but shared across all the modules wherever there is a financial transactions or financial event with some financial terms. Then controlling the financial transaction in various subledger modules like cash management, receivable, payables, by defining the period and closing the period, opening the period, or restricting the closure and opening of periods, the transaction can be controlled. So if the business doesn't want the transactions to start in a particular month, they can keep it closed and control the transactions. Then period closure activities. When a period is closed, the balance is to be transferred to the next period. So how, what, and when this period close activity to be carried out, that is again dependent on the accounting calendar. Then classification of records based on the period in an accounting period. So if month wise, period wise, or quarter wise calculation to be done, classification to be done, that is possible if the accounting calendar is properly defined. And finally, analysis and forecasting, and then preparing the what if reports. So that is again completely dependent, and the accounting calendar plays a bigger role for analysis, forecasting, and uh, designing the what if reports. Now let us see how we can define a calendar manually. So far, through rapid implementation, we have seen how the calendar is created by providing the information in the rapid implementation file. But this process is manual. So to define the manual, define the accounting calendar manually, what you have to do, you go to the setup and maintenance. Make sure that you are in financial. Then go to the financial reporting structure. Under financial reporting structure, you have the task called manage accounting calendars. Click on this. Now in this page, you will find all the calendars that are defined earlier in this system, in this instance. So to create one new, you have to click on this plus sign to create the new one. Now in this form, this page, there are certain information which are free text. You can enter the name. So what should be the name of the accounting calendar? Just put a name, say P1 or accounting calendar. EB. Optionally, you can put a description. Now, what is the start date? The start date is basically from which date you want to start your business. So if it is if the organization is coming from or migrating from a different ERP system, then they have to take a decision from which date they will get the from which date they will start entering the data, and from which date they are bringing the transactions from the existing or legacy system. So that's a decision to be taken. So based on that decision, you have to take the start date. So always, I mean, take it some older years. Let us take 2020 January, so that we will have the period from January to December. If it is a fiscal period, then you can define that as well. There are options. So click on the 1st January. If you look at the period Jan 20. Now, what is the frequency that you want to have for each period? Whether you want to have a monthly period or you want to have your own customized quarterly, weekly. So if you have one period weekly, that means every week you have to close the period and open the next weekly period for entering the transactions. So most organizations, they go for monthly. Now you can add a prefix. This is optional. So if you want, you can add EB. So once you add the prefix, this will change to the name of the period will change. So let us not use this one. Now what is the separator? It will separate the name from the year. Then what is the format? So period number, if you select say MMYY, then it will change it to 0120. So 01 first period of 2020 year. If you select MMYY, then it will take Jan, and the separator will be hyphen with year 20. Then whether you want to have the budgetary control or not. If you want to have the budgetary control, then you can enable. We will look into this particular option later once we start looking at the budgetary control and all. Then what is adjustment period? So adjustment period is a accounting concept where it allows the business to do the adjustment to the entire accounting they have done. So either they can go for quarterly, monthly, or every month they want to have adjustment period, they can have. But most of the companies, they go for once at year end or once at beginning and once at end of the year. So we'll go with once at year end, and we will see what happens. So we have selected period frequency as monthly. So within a year, we will have 12 months plus one accounting adjustment period, adjusting period, as we mentioned, once at year end. So once the information in this page are defined, then click on next. So the system will automatically create the periods based on the information that you have provided. It will put the period number and the quarter number. So at the end of the year, you will have one adjustment period. This is the adjustment flag, and this adjustment period can override anything, any date. So by default, the system has taken 12/31. So YYDD MMDDYY. So if you want to change it, you can change it. You can change it because by default it takes 1 day as the adjustment period date. So if you want the entire month you want to use, you can change it to first. Here also you can change by naming adjustment Okay, these are all optional steps. Now once you are done with this, you save it. The moment you save, it will create the calendar, accounting calendar for 2020. So basically, the system validates certain information, whether you have modified any period or any period is overlapping with other period. So there are multiple validation processes. So now 2020 period is defined. Now if you want to add more years, you can add year. So the new 21 is added. Similarly, after adding this, you can save it and add one more year. So every time you have to change the date and the name. Once it is added, you can come over here and do the changes before saving it. 21 and this is 01. Now the calendar is ready for 2 years. If you want to add more years, you can click on this and add more years. If the years are not added, then those periods and those years will not be available for transactions. So save it, save and close. Now the accounting period is ready. We have defined our accounting period. Now we will see where these accounting period are associated and where we use these accounting periods. So we will I will go with the accounting period that we have already defined through the rapid implementation, and just to show where the accounting period are used. Now if you click on this and go to specify ledger, which is a part of global enterprise structure designing, you go to setup and maintenance and go to general ledger. Now go to the specify ledger options, go to click on this. Now we have created the ledger and the accounting information. When you create the ledger manually, when you associate the information related to the ledger manually, you can assign the calendar over here. Now, what is this number of future periods? So once you open the period, how many periods will be in future enterable? Future enterable is nothing but where you can enter the transactions, but you cannot post them to the ledger. So this is the first place where we associate the accounting calendar. Now after this association, what user activity to be done? So we will see that 7 close. We have to open the first period. So we have defined the number of years. We have defined added the number of years. Now unless until we open the first period, the system will not allow us to do the transactions. Where else we can see how this accounting period is linked with the other modules? You go to home, go to general accounting role. In the general accounting role, you have period close or accounting dashboard. So click on this period close. You can see that the ledger or the accounting calendar that we have associated is associated with general ledger, receivables, projects and payables. So You can select the first period where you have defined. So Jan 22 is the first period for this particular accounting calendar. Now, if you want to open, you can open from here, or else you can open from the functional setup manager or setup and maintenance window. So if you click on this, already the period are open. So if you want to open the first period, that is the process. So here you can see the status of each period and whether it is entered or not. So Jan 22, if you look at this, it's future enterable. Now how to open the period? If the first period is not open, then you will not be able to do the transaction or migrate the transaction from the legacy system. So let us go back to functional setup manager. Setup and maintenance. Then go to general ledger. Open first period. So when you are opening first period, the period will be picked from this particular ledger. So that is how the scope is linked. So this is the ledger which is in scope. So whatever accounting calendar is associated with this particular ledger, you are going to perform open first period. Now here, because somebody have already opened, so it will display the accounting period which you want to open for first. So submit it. So select the first period and submit it for opening. Now once this period is opened, then this will be available for transactions. So go to home. So go to general accounting and check whether the period is open or not. So if you click on Jan 22, this is open. Now the user can do the transaction in the period of January 2022. Now why and where it is linked? Because in receivables we are going to do the financial transactions. So unless until the period is open for receivables or projects or payables, the transactions in those sub-ledgers cannot be done. So these are the places where this accounting period is linked. So the sequence is your accounting calendar, accounting period. Accounting period should be defined in the accounting calendar. That accounting calendar should be associated with the ledger, and then the period should be opened in general ledger first, because that is the central repository for financial information. So once that period is opened in general ledger, you will be able to open the period in payables, receivables and project. Now if you close the period permanently, then these subledgers, you cannot use the period for entering the transaction in your subledger or modules like receivables, payables and the modules that are linked with those financial modules as well. That's how we have completed the definition of accounting calendar.